Controversy stemming from Mike Santana's shock TNA World Championship defeat on TNA Impact this past week, as TNA officials are being now accused of trying to work fans and journalists by feeding news outlets fake stories about the former TNA World Champion, including a story that last night Santana had not showed up for meet and greets, was not backstage at Turning Point, and also was not responding to calls or emails. Santana later appeared on the broadcast though, so we'll get all the details on that. Plus, Zack Ryder makes his return to WWE, entering the John Cena Last Time Is Now tournament on SmackDown. All this and more in this news update. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. We've got a jam-packed video for you today. Before we get started, you can see right there, we are less than 140 subscribers to go to 25,000. Of course, that was our goal, to get 25k in 2025. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into this controversy surrounding Mike Santana and TNA officials possibly leaking false information, false stories to work not only journalists but fans, in comparison to the outrage over Santana dropping the TNA World Championship at TNA Impact this past week. Now, Mike Santana is no longer TNA champion after just a month with the bout, a month when the company was not holding shows or TV tapings. He was dethroned following an attack by WWE NXT superstars, and also Frankie Kazarian then cashed in his Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy to become the new champion. Now, on Friday, this is where it gets a little bit controversial here. PW Insider reported that as of 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday, Santana was not backstage at TNA's TNA Plus special Turning Point, with the call time for the show being 1 p.m. Eastern. Santana was also absent from his scheduled meet and greets, and the word amongst TNA talents was Santana had not returned TNA officials' calls or texts. Now, this generated, as you would expect, a lot of discussion online, some concern when it comes to not actually responding to text or emails, people worrying if something had happened to the former AEW star. Now, according to Fightful Select, very quickly, Sean Ross Sapp kind of debunked this. Sean Ross Sapp posted on Blue Sky first. He said, quote, TNA is trying to work an angle around Santana and the unhappiness from fans. They're claiming he isn't at the tapings and TNA officials haven't heard from him, Sapp said. Now, this was also then reported on Fightful Select, once again by Sapp, saying that Santana did not no-show the event and didn't refuse to answer any calls from the company. The outlet reported that a TNA official tried to give them the same information provided elsewhere, that the former TNA champion had cut contact, but that information was false. Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp noted that they usually wouldn't, quote, blast something like that, but it was the first time someone in an official capacity reached out to Fightful with a worked angle in attempts to work fans and readers of the outlet. Now, as I mentioned, Santana did show up during Turning Point last night. He returned to TNA at the last minute. Over the last 24 hours, there's been all of this controversy and confusion with these reports saying that he no-showed, but he hadn't no-showed, this, that, and the other. Now, Santana's status during the show was unclear. Macklin, his tag team partner, who was originally scheduled to team with at the show, wasn't one to back down from a fight, so he faced obviously Nick Nemeth and Frankie Kazarian in a handicap match, which was a scheduled main event for the show. Halfway through the match, Santana returned to Full Sail University and even helped the odds against the TNA World Champion and the Call Your Shot Gauntlet winner. So he did make his return there, but again, there was a lot of confusion surrounding it. So what are your thoughts on this? This has generated a discussion about whether journalists and news outlets should be worked or should be given false information in an official capacity by officials, or is this just part of pro wrestling where you have to go along with the ride and you can always be worked at any moment? What are your thoughts? What's your reaction to it? Let me know, as always, in the comment section below. Now, going over to SmackDown last night, Zack Ryder appeared on WWE television, and he might be back with the company. Zack Ryder, of course known as well as Matt Cardona, made his return to WWE on SmackDown as the mystery opponent for LA Knight in the Last Time Is Now tournament. Ryder had his familiar woo 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 you know it theme and utilized the WWE persona he was known for before his 2020 release, and reinventing himself as Cardona on the independent scene. Corey Graves noted Ryder's success on the independent scene and away from WWE. This was Ryder's first WWE main roster match since March of 2020. Knight, though, was victorious, and he joins the likes of Jey Uso, Sheamus, and Rusev as the four men who have advanced in the tournament. Javon Evans versus Gunther and Solo Sikoa versus a mystery opponent are the next two matches set for the tournament. Of course, the winner of the tournament will face John Cena in his retirement match on December 13th at Saturday night's main event in Washington, D.C. Now, some have questioned whether or not this is just a one-off. Of course, Cardona has appeared on AEW television, TNA television, without being under contract with the company. So is this a similar situation with WWE? Well, possibly not, because since then, after Cardona's appearance, WWE Shop has pushed out a link to 3 new Zack Ryder shirts, which would possibly suggest that actually he could be sticking around for quite some time and has maybe even signed a contract. Now, we don't have details or information on that. If we get any more details as to his status with WWE, we'll let you know in a future video. Drew McIntyre, he returned on SmackDown a week after he was suspended, and he will join the Vision for War Games at Survivor Series. McIntyre officially joined the team on Friday's WWE SmackDown, helping Logan Paul, Bronson Reed, and Bron Breakker as they fought with the Usos and undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes. McIntyre was suspended last Friday by General Manager Nick Aldis, but Paul Heyman pointed out that he could take anyone on the roster as part of the team. Despite McIntyre being suspended, he is still part of the SmackDown roster, which Heyman made sure to point out to Aldis. Drew McIntyre and the Vision laid out Rhodes and the Usos to close the show. McIntyre shook hands with Heyman, accepting the War Games offer. CM Punk, who was absent on SmackDown, will team with Rhodes and the Usos in War Games. Of course, each team will add one more man. Now, I spoke about Jimmy Uso there. He indeed is joining the babyface team at Survivor Series. In a backstage segment on SmackDown, Jimmy Uso said he spoke with CM Punk, and he'll be teaming with Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso in War Games at Survivor Series. One more name is set to join the War Games team. Jimmy, Jey, and Punk teamed together in the 2024 War Games match with Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. Of course, they'll be up against Bronson Reed, Bron Breakker, Logan Paul, and also Drew McIntyre. Now we have the ratings and viewership information for Wednesday's special Blood and Guts edition of AEW Dynamite. Wednesday's AEW Dynamite show drew 600,000 viewers on TBS, which is up significantly compared to last week's 497,000 viewers. It is up 21%. The show was notable, as mentioned, for being the Dynamite Blood and Guts 2025 special. It drew a 0.15 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic, once again up significantly, up 67% from last week's 0.09 rating. Of course, as always, the streaming viewership numbers for the simulcast on HBO Max is currently not known. In regards to notable sports competition, the NBA game of Orlando Magic versus New York Knicks drew 1.312 million viewers on ESPN. The women's college basketball game of Creighton versus Nebraska drew 204,000 viewers on FS1. The college football game of Toledo versus Miami drew 349,000 viewers on ESPN2, and the NHL game of New Jersey Devils versus Chicago Blackhawks drew 327,000 viewers on TNT. This time last year, on November 13th, 2024, Dynamite drew 666,000 viewers and a 0.22 in the 1849 rating. The November 15, 2023 episode drew 823,000 viewers and a 0.28 rating. Keeping with ratings here, we have the ratings for Tuesday's edition of WWE NXT. NXT continues to be one of the more consistent professional wrestling programs in ratings nowadays, thanks to Nielsen's new measurement system impacting other shows, and the developmental brand even gained viewership with its November 11th episode from the previous week. According to WrestleNomics, with data from Programming Insider, NXT drew 554,000 viewers for this week's episode, a 5% increase from the 528,000 viewers of the November 4th edition of the show. The November 11th show from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, drew a 0.07 rating in the ever-important ages 18 to 49 demographic, slipping ever so slightly from a 0.08 the week prior. The episode of NXT was down 2% versus the trailing 4 weeks average viewership of 568,000 and down 12% in the key rating from the average of a 0.08. Compared to this time last year, NXT is down 17% in viewership from the average of 689,000 viewers in quarter 4 of 2024. This week's episode of NXT saw a last man standing match main event between NXT champion Ricky Saints and challenger Trick Williams. While Saints retained, his celebration was short-lived as he was interrupted at the very end of the broadcast by a returning Obafemi. Saints defeated the ruler for the NXT championship at No Mercy at the end of September, and Femi hasn't been seen since. Next week, the developmental brand will hold its Gold Rush special live from the theater at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Various championships will be on the line, including Sol Ruka challenging Blake Monroe for the Women's North American Championship, and Dark State's Dion Lennox and Osiris Griffin will defend the NXT Tag Team Championships against Javon Evans and TNA X Division champion Leon Slater. Going back to TNA, and there is an investigation into how Frankie Kazarian won the TNA World title from Mike Santana on Impact. TNA Wrestling presented their Turning Point special on November 14th. The pre-show featured TNA World Champion Frankie Kazarian hosting his The King's Speech segment. During it, he asked for TNA President Carlos Silva to come to the ring. Silva would break the news that TNA is launching an investigation into the circumstances that led to Kazarian becoming the champion. NXT overseer Shawn Michaels tweeted the following about the situation, saying, quote, "I'm looking into it, #Turning Point." This, of course, was a quote tweet to Ava, who said, quote, "I had nothing to do with this." Now, during the main event of Thursday's TNA Impact Live, now former TNA World Champion Mike Santana defended the title against Ryan Nemeth. Cameras cut backstage to Call Your Shot Gauntlet co-winner Nick Nemeth arriving at the venue, but he was attacked by a hooded individual. Back in the ring, several NXT superstars showed up and attacked Ryan and Santana. Their focused attack on Santana led to fellow Call Your Shot Gauntlet co-winner Frankie Kazarian jetting to the ring to execute his title shot and defeating Santana to become TNA World Champion. Nick Nemeth showed up during the segment involving Kazarian and Silva at Turning Point and questioned how Kazarian was the only one not attacked by the WWE NXT wrestlers. Now, speaking of said wrestlers, they made their presence felt once again last night during Turning Point. A group from WWE NXT that consists of Robert Stone, Tariq Tyson DuPont, Charlie Dempsey, Lexis King, Stax, and Brooks Jensen showed up during the TNA World Championship match on Impact on Thursday. They attacked the champion Mike Santana and his opponent Ryan Nemeth. This led to Kazarian becoming the new TNA World Champion, as we covered. In the main event of TNA Turning Point, the new champion Kazarian teamed with Call Your Shot Gauntlet co-winner Nick Nemeth to take on TNA International Champion Steve Macklin and Mike Santana. Santana showed up halfway through the bout, as it was stated throughout the program that no one had heard from him or seen him since he left the venue after losing the TNA World title. Santana pinned Kazarian in the tag match to pick up the victory. Afterwards, the NXT group showed up again. It was speculated that Kazarian had something to do with them showing up on the episode because he had a clear lane to execute his title shot opportunity right after the group showed up. At Turning Point, they attacked Kazarian as well. TNA Director of Authority Santino Marella was ambushed when he tried to intervene. TNA World Tag Team Champions The Hardys arrived at the scene with chairs, but they were taken out as well. Going back to SmackDown, Jey Uso has advanced in the Last Time Is Now tournament. Uso defeated The Miz on Friday's WWE SmackDown in the first round of the Last Time Is Now tournament. The finish saw Jey drop The Miz across the top rope from the middle turnbuckle and follow up with a spear and Uso splash for the victory. Jey joins Rusev, Sheamus, and LA Knight, who have advanced in the Last Time Is Now tournament. Of course, Jey and Cena have actually never competed in a singles match against each other, although Jey did win the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble match, last eliminating John Cena earlier this year. Ilya Dragunov is still the WWE United States Champion. He may not have been keen in putting his United States Championship on the line against an unworthy jackass like Tommaso Ciampa, but he was more than willing to face the high-flying Axiom on Friday's episode of SmackDown. In another installation of the United States Open Challenge, Dragunov and Axiom shocked and stunned Albany with their display of in-ring magnificence, but when all was said and done, the Mad Dragon defended his gold and remained the United States Champion. With this victory, Dragunov is set to continue his United States Championship reign, which currently sits at 29 days and counting. Since winning the title from Sami Zayn, Dragunov has defended his title against the likes of Aleister Black, Nathan Fraser, and Johnny Gargano. While Dragunov and Ciampa had a tense backstage confrontation earlier in the evening, Axiom was on the receiving end of Ciampa's ire. While SmackDown was on a commercial break, Ciampa attacked the departing Axiom. Fraser rushed to the ring to help his tag team partner, but Ciampa managed to escape. Dragunov has not commented on the post-match attack. Sami Zayn appeared last night on SmackDown and he is medically cleared. Sami Zayn called out Solo Sikoa, who was flanked by the MFTs and ready for a fight. Solo said he didn't want to put him down since he's not cleared, but Zayn revealed that he is cleared after being sidelined for the last month. Zayn also said he wasn't alone, leading to Shinsuke Nakamura, Rey Fenix, and the Motor City Machine Guns joining him to fight off the MFTs. After the brawl in the ring, Solo spoke to SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis backstage, wanting to face Sami Zayn. Aldis said they didn't have time on SmackDown, but booked a 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match for the November 28th episode of SmackDown in 2 weeks' time. Going back to Turning Point, and Desmond Xavier is back with the Rascals. Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, JDC, and Moose of the System were scheduled to take on the Rascals' Trey Miguel, Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, and a mystery partner at TNA Turning Point. Everyone knew who the fourth member of the team would be, and fans weren't disappointed when Desmond Xavier walked out. Last month, WWE released the former Wesley and other NXT wrestlers. He had already done a storyline with the Rascals where he turned on them during an NXT segment, but it looks like everyone has seemingly forgiven him for that. The Rascals ended up winning their match against the System after Desmond Xavier delivered a spiral tap. Now, in terms of what his contract situation is, we've got some details on that as well. As I mentioned, Xavier appeared in TNA as the least surprising surprise in recent memory, and that was by design. Xavier returned to TNA after his years-long run with WWE as Wesley at Turning Point to rejoin his Rascals brothers. Now, according to Fightful Select, TNA knew pretty well everyone would expect him as a surprise and were happy with the reaction that he got, as well as his performance. Fightful Select say they have confirmed that Xavier is not under contract to TNA. However, there are creative plans for him moving forward with the team. In addition to that, Fightful have been told that Zachary Wentz's deal with TNA is up at the end of the year. The group plan to evaluate their options moving forward, and Fightful have heard there is expected to be interest in the Rascals outside of TNA. Fightful say they're looking to get updates on Myron Reed and Trey Miguel as well. Going back to SmackDown, Charlotte Flair dropped a bit of a bombshell during the show because she walked out on her ally of convenience on the show. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky opened the November 14th episode of the show, declaring themselves ready for War Games. They introduced Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair as their partners for the event. Alexa was upset at Nia Jax and Lash Legend for costing them the women's tag team titles against the Kabuki Warriors on Raw and is ready for War Games. Charlotte, however, was not sold. Charlotte said she could not be part of the team due to her history with Ripley, and they weren't friends just because they had a common enemy. Charlotte walked off, and Bliss, Io, and Ripley stood in the ring wondering what had just happened. We'll have to wait and see if Charlotte rejoins the team. Now, some news here that some people may not be happy about, and that is that SmackDown is going back to its 3-hour format in 2026. WrestleVotes has reported, quote, WWE and USA Network have decided to move SmackDown back to 3 hours, beginning with the January 2nd show from Buffalo, New York. Now, WWE has not confirmed the news yet in an official capacity. SmackDown was a 3-hour show from January 2025 to June, before switching back to 2 hours. SmackDown airs every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on USA Network. Of course, if we get any more details as to the rationale behind that or any official confirmation, we'll let you know in the future. Tessa Blanchard was not cleared to compete last night at Turning Point, and a replacement was made. The Knockouts World Tag Team Championships were up for grabs at TNA Wrestling's Turning Point special. The advertised bout was the Inspiration defending the titles against Tessa Blanchard and Victoria Crawford, in addition to the duo of Xia Brookside and Li Ying Lee. Blanchard did not come to the ring in ring gear. Before the match began, she grabbed a microphone and announced she was not cleared to compete. She then stated that she and Crawford selected new TNA signee Myla Moore to fill in for her and compete in the tag team match. The Inspiration ended up retaining the titles. There's been a bit of controversy recently over the introduction of the AEW National Championship. AEW introducing the national title on the November 5th episode of Dynamite sparked some controversy as NWA wrestlers pointed out that the NWA national title already exists and has the lineage that Tony Khan spoke about in his AEW national title introduction. Speaking on social media, Khan addressed the controversy. He said on X, quote, "When I recently announced it, I saw a lot of talk online and there was chatter from people from other promotions and people all over. Wrestlers are going to talk and say stuff. That's totally cool. I ended up having a nice conversation about it with the president of the NWA, Billy Corgan. The NWA National Championship has a great history of its own. When we created a national championship, I saw NWA wrestlers saying, we have a national title. AEW is a separate company and we have our own lineage. Billy, I have a lot of respect for him and what he's doing. I love the traditions of pro wrestling and I had a nice talk with Billy. We haven't talked in a long time and it was good for him to do this. I respect him and the NWA. We're trying to do something different here. We brought pro wrestling back to TBS, but there are a lot of promotions that had history on TBS before, one of them being the NWA. I think it's great that Billy is trying to keep that tradition alive and revive it. We had a really nice talk about this. To any wrestlers anywhere in the world, particularly you in the NWA, you might be happy to hear Billy and I had a nice talk about this. I'm sure he would say the same." Now, the first ever AEW National Champion will be crowned at AEW Full Gear in a casino gauntlet match. Speaking of AEW, matches have been confirmed for AEW Collision tonight, and a big TNT Championship match has also been revealed. AEW President Tony Khan announced that Kyle Fletcher wanted to defend his AEW TNT Championship ahead of Full Gear, and Khan revealed he was giving the opportunity to the former two-time AEW TNT Champion Scorpio Sky. Plus, Hyan and Maya World will get another opportunity against Alex Windsor and Riho. Hyan and Maya stepped up on short notice last Saturday on Collision, losing to TJ. Furthermore, there will be an 8-man tag team bout pitting Juice Robinson, Bandito, and Jet Speed against FTR and LFI. Finally, Timeless Toni Storm will speak after her surrender in Blood and Guts this past Wednesday. Now, next week's SmackDown has several matches confirmed for the show. Nick Aldis drew the names, and Bronson Reed will face Carmelo Hayes in the Last Time Is Now tournament next week, while Penta will take on Finn Balor in the first round for the Last Time Is Now tournament. Both matches will take place on the November 21st episode of WWE SmackDown. In addition to that, a tag team match has been confirmed for the show, with DIY battling Fraxium on the show. Now, going over to CMLL with some AEW influence here, the Lucha Libre promotion has announced that the Beast Mortos will take on Commander at Arena Mexico next Friday. This will be the first singles match for Mortos in CMLL since July. It will be the third singles match between Commander and Mortos overall. Mortos is 2-0. Plus, Jet Speed, that being Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey, will take on Neon and Mascara Dorada. This will be the first time Jet Speed has competed under promotional banner in Arena Mexico. And finally, a bit of an update here on the lawsuit, the WWE shareholder lawsuit, with WWE Chief Content Officer Paul Triple H Levesque now being deposed. WWE is currently involved in an ongoing shareholder lawsuit concerning the promotion's merger with UFC, in which former WWE board members, including Vince McMahon, are accused of breaching fiduciary duties by approving the merger with UFC, thereby keeping McMahon involved in the company following the emergence of sexual misconduct allegations and still ongoing lawsuit involving former WWE employee Janelle Grant going against shareholder wishes. WrestleNomics have revealed, per court filings, that current WWE Chief Content Officer Paul Triple H Levesque was scheduled to be deposed. This would mean that Paul Triple H Levesque may potentially be facing several questions regarding how WWE's deal with Endeavor came together, Vince McMahon's role, and more. In addition to this, phone activity regarding current COO of TKO, Mark Shapiro, has been subpoenaed. It is stated that Triple H is set to undergo deposition this Tuesday at 11 a.m. There is no guarantee that anything regarding Triple H and his being deposed will become public record. When it comes to McMahon's role in WWE's merger, the former chairman has denied the allegations that have been sent his way. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.